Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and all things above and in between. I am one of your hosts, Obsessive Reader Love, but you can call me Love, and I am joined by...
Hi, I'm Loreweaver.
And I'm Teddy.
And this is the inaugural episode of the Own Tempo Pokemon Podcast. This podcast is an excuse for three friends to talk about Pokemon for extended periods of time. It's a review podcast. We're going to throw in some trivia. Essentially, for the length of this podcast, we have selected a group of Pokemon that we will go through and give our thoughts and opinions and experiences with over the course of our long extended periods playing Pokemon, because all of us have been playing Pokemon since Generation 1.
That's presumptuous. I've only been playing since Gen 2, actually.
Oh, well, excuse me. My mistake.
Well, we're your Pokemon elders, then.
Interesting. It's very silly. I just assumed because you were the oldest one here. All right, so today, for our inaugural episode...
I'm 35.
Yeah, Lore's the oldest.
Okay, yeah. I'm just getting everything wrong today. Anyway, so because today is our first episode, we've decided to start with the starters, although the technical term is actually first partner Pokemon.
It's a starter. Everyone knows what a starter is.
Where did they use the technical term first partner Pokemon?
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Oh, they actually use it in the anime a lot, and that's what they call them in the games. It's like which Pokemon will be your first partner, etc., etc. And this is what I'm here for. I am the trivia master. I've got Bulbapedia up and everything. We're ready to go.
It's a little bit Digimon up in here.
So, for our first episode, we're going to start with the starters, but of course there are 27 of those now. That's a little bit too long for a 1-hour podcast, so we're going to just start with the grass types, and then we'll do fire next time and water for the third episode, and we'll be all thematic and stuff like that. So, we will begin with the OG, the best boy in a lot of people's hearts, the friend-shaped, magical sea-scented dino frog with an imaginary flower backpack.
Number
Bulbasaur.
001.
The boy.
Bulbasaur.
You're sticking with the bit. Okay. All right. So, did either of you guys pick Bulbasaur when you were first playing a Gen 1 game?
I've done multiple playthroughs of Gen 1. I started with Yellow, and I started with Charmander, of course, because Fire's my favorite type, and I love the little lizard. But, I did do a playthrough of, I think it was Red, that I got after a while, and I picked Bulbasaur there just to try it out. Bulbasaur is easy mode in Red, Blue, and Yellow. Well, I guess not Yellow, because you don't get him until after Misty.
Yeah, you actually get Bulbasaur pretty late. If you don't have high enough friendship with your Pikachu, you can't get it until even later. It's interesting that they went with that. But I actually don't usually pick grass-type starters. I've only picked the grass-type starter a couple of times, and Bulbasaur is, like, when I said pick, I meant, like, the first time playing through a video, through.
Yeah, that's where the choice actually comes into play. Nobody's saying, oh, your third time through, who did you pick? No, you pick a starter when you first play the game, and that's who you associate with.
Mm-hmm. When I first played Generation 1, I was mooching off of my older brother's giant brick of a Game Boy and his blue version, and I thought, oh, it's blue version, clearly I have to pick the turtle since it's on the cover. But also I like Squirtle in general anyway. He's a good boy. But I sort of gravitated towards Charmander for a little while because I like fire types, and Bulbasaur has always kind of been like my least favorite Gen 1 starter, but that doesn't mean that I don't love him. He's a goodest boy. He's just, like, I do love him, even if I don't love him as much as his brethren.
All the Gen 1 starters are bangers, let's be real.
They're all pretty good. They're not like my favorite set by a long shot. They're pretty squarely in the middle, but they definitely established the vibe that would continue on into perpetuity, hopefully, with any hope, any luck.
There's
I'm no
1,000
Gen
of these
1er.
things now.
What?
There's 1,000 of these little things now,
Oh,
so
I know, it's
perpetuity is
wild, and I
inevitable.
know all of them.
I know,
I've
right?
definitely got gaps where I'm just like, you could show me a Pokemon and I'll be like, I do not know that thing's name.
I
That's-
can't name the Tapus on site, but
I
Really?
can say that's a Tapu. I don't know which one.
It's so easy though. Tapu Koko's the ones that's in the Tapu Koko is the one that's present in the story.
Uh-huh.
Tapu Fini is the one with fins. It's the water one.
Uh-huh.
Tapu Bulu looks like a bull, and
Lele
Tapu
is the
Lele looks
other one.
like somebody who would be named Lele. She looks like a fancy girl. It's not hard. That's like one of the easiest ones.
I think the one that there are just some mythicals that you could show me and I'd be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know its name. I recognize it, but I don't know its name.
That's kind of fair. I know them mostly just because I am a giant nerd, and like I watch videos as like, oh, look at these lame mythicals that aren't even special anymore. Like, who cares about Zarude? But also, like, Zarude literally is a meme because Sandstorm. It's
can
not
it
a
learn
ground type.
Sandstorm?
I don't know. It's not a ground or rock type. It's like it's a grass dark type. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't know the types of of some of the more like. Sometimes I will get types mixed up, but not often. Not as often. I have been doing this for literally my entire life, basically. So
25 years for me.
Yep. I mean, it's been 20, 25, 26 years. It's been a while.
27 since the Japanese release of Red and Green.
Yep.
I think Red and Blue came to America in 97 and Yellow came in 98.
That would make sense, yeah.
Picture this. A rural Pokemon town that lives near some grassy mountains is one day beset upon by a strange, sudden presence of a large amount of pollen that they hadn't experienced before in the area. After some investigation and some exploration, they discover, inside a nearby cave, a Venusaur with an overgrown plant upon its back, just letting out pollen, clearly otherwise struggling. And people conclude that it's been living in that cave for years, living off of only sunlight, the plant upon its back, overgrown and overburdened. I just like to think of scenarios that are weird.
Okay, well we have one of our segments apparently. Story time with Ted. That's a good. That was enthralling, man. I liked that a lot.
That's a good scenario.
Yeah, that's an episode of the anime right there.
Or a tabletop RPG session.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about it in terms of the anime because I've watched so much of the anime. There have been a number of very good Bulbasaur episodes. In the first season, the Ash's Bulbasaur had a whole thing where he did not want to evolve, and obviously his Pikachu is another one. But Ash's Bulbasaur had a whole episode dedicated to like this ceremony that Bulbasaurs and Ivysaurs went to evolve. Which is like a common thing in the anime, these ceremonies where they'll evolve and stuff. It's very cool. I like that kind of the idea of Pokemon having culture, and Ash's Bulbasaur had to prove that he didn't need to evolve by beating up the big Venusaur in charge.
Oh, I think I vaguely remember that.
And he did it by learning Solar Beam, which was an important lesson to the kids in the audience that if you don't evolve your Pokemon, they learn moves earlier. Which is, it's like, because the original Pokemon anime, while it has very many flaws and did not always follow the logic of the games, it actually did follow the logic of the games more than a significant amount of things of its ilk. Like, Digimon doesn't follow the rules of its thing. Digimon toys do not work the way that the show works. Yu-Gi-Oh! Did not follow the rules of its card game because its card game didn't exist. Its card game came into
With some
existence
time,
afterwards.
it grew into following the rules of its card game.
Although even then
There are definitely
were,
anime exclusive cards.
even after like it did that, there was still some like I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. But in like the later seasons, there were. But like also in Zexal at one point, we don't get to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! That's a whole other topic. Pokemon did mostly work the way that it was supposed to, just with like a level of spatial awareness involved that I think was the original Pokemon series is not my favorite of the Pokemon anime. I have many seasons I like more than it, but honestly, for what it was so cool. It was so cool. Like
There's
the original
something about Pokemon that's just special. They really got it right the first time in a lot of ways. There's a reason it's a juggernaut, and it started as a juggernaut. It's something like 40 million sales of Red, Blue, and Yellow. It's insane.
It was such a phenomenon. I remember the Pokemon fruit snacks that are back now. I remember when the Pokemon fruit snacks and stuff came back. I was like, oh my god, we're living in my childhood again.
If I recall correctly, and you're free to correct me if I'm wrong, Pokemania in the US just happened to coincide with like a huge consumer boom.
That's probably accurate.
A lot of people had more money to spend.
The late 90s and early 2000s were very much like, we have nothing to worry about right now. The Cold War is over. Let's do, like, I hear this also often when you look at like the pop music of the era. This is a complete tangent from Pokemon, but like if you think about all this stuff, like Barbie Girl, the song, Blue Dabba Dee, the song. There's like so much happy, not a care in the goddamn world stuff happening because we don't have anything to worry about because the world is great. Y2K didn't actually blow everything up. Let's have a party.
Also, I'm actually seeing Gigantamax Venusaur for the first time.
You hadn't seen it? I love that thing.
I think it's really interesting how the flower on its back overgrows to the point where it almost resembles a Rafflesia.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be a Rafflesia anyway.
Oh.
God, Venusaur must stink so bad.
So there's two Pokemon with Rafflesia ass?
Actually, it might. I think Venusaur's plant is supposed to be like its own special thing that it's supposed to smell very good, as opposed to Vileplume, which does canonically smell very bad, because it is definitely a Rafflesia. But it would make sense, because Venusaur and Vileplume often overlap in terms of like role in teams and stuff. They're both chlorophyll, they're both the same type, and that's on purpose, right? You know, the game designed it so that if you picked different starters, you have backups, and it even like illustrates that with your rival having some of those backups.
Except for in Diamond and Pearl, where if you didn't pick the fire starter, well,
no, I was talking about Red and Blue. Like, the idea, like, just the base concept of Pokemon in general was so, like, well-formed. And, like, it's kind of weird that the ones that your rival picks to represent the types are not actually super easy to obtain ones, but that does kind of make sense. Like, you know, in Red and Blue, like, his Growlithe is the easiest one to find.
I mean, like, he has a Pidgeot.
Like, Execute is... sorry, I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
That's literally the second easiest Pokemon to get is his Pidgeot.
Well, yeah, I meant, like, of the 3 type ones. That he replaces a potential starter slot with. Because, like, his other 2 are Gyarados, which definitely requires work and also is a really bad water type in that game. But we don't got to get into that.
The Gen 1 physical specials setup.
I mean, Gen 1 through 3.
In a really interesting space, because it's like... It's hitting a lot of the notes of what it's kind of hit a lot of the notes of what Pokemon is as a craze. But also, Gen 1 is still kind of acting like it's an early RPG.
Like, it does feel that way. Like, the idea of just having the one magic stat is a thing that a lot of RPGs have, where your magic represents both the amount of damage you can do and the amount of damage that you can take. And, full flavor to the audience, this is the podcast. This is how this is going to work. This is an excuse for us to talk about random Pokemon shit that we like for an hour or so. And because because the Bulbasaur line represents Gen 1, we get to talk about Gen 1 now. And we'll talk about Gen 1 more in the next 2 episodes as well, because once we get to Squirtle, I'm gonna regale you with the Squirtle Squad, don't you worry. But
yes, we should talk about Bulbasaur, because we've been going for 18 minutes.
We
have talked about Bulbasaur.
Yeah. I think Bulbasaur is really fun. I think it's fun that it's kind of a dinosaur, but it's also kind of a toad.
I love that Venusaur and the whole line hops in
Let's Go.
Let's Go and affiliated things, because like it's really deciding to be like, yes, we have decided this is a sea, this is a frog.
I am not going to lie, until Let's Go came out, I just thought it was a lizard. I never put together that it was a toad.
Yeah, you can, like, a lot of the art does not really make its kind of squat vibe, because it's depicted from the front a lot, so you can't really see that its back legs are kind of squatted down like that. Mm-hmm. And obviously, like, it's a very simplified, sort of like rounded, cartoonified version of it. Like, frogs have much bigger hind legs than this, but you can kind of tell that it's not really made for moving fast, even in its animations. It's kind of like dump. It's a toad, not a frog. It's got the warts and everything.
Here's my complaint about Bulbasaur's design. So Ivysaur and Venusaur are blue, right? And in the early days of Pokemon, so was Bulbasaur. But now it's green for some reason, and I don't know why. And it looked better when it was blue, green, contrasting with the green bulb, and it looked better when it fit with Ivysaur and Venusaur, and it bugs me so much.
It is kind of I feel like it's a subtle enough shift that I had not even remembered that happened until you brought it up. I don't even remember when that change occurred, because it's been that long.
It's actually interesting, because if you look at Gen 1 and 2 sprites, Bulbasaur was just kind of the same color all over.
Well, yeah, but that's because
that's
how
a restriction
Gen
of the
1
Game
worked.
Boy.
Well, I mean, Gen 2 had a lot of color to work with, and it did experiment with its color a fair amount.
But it was like, okay, now we can make Bulbasaur's eyes red.
You know, it's not nothing.
Yeah, it's not nothing.
The Gen 1 to Gen 2 sprite jump was pretty insane.
I mean, to be fair, like, red to blue in Japan, like the red and green to the updated blue version, the front sprites, that's like a pretty sizable upgrade. And then to yellow, the yellow sprites are all based on official artwork. They're all very good, like, for the time. It's just that they didn't change the back sprites. Which is a lot of what you look at. So I feel like the games have always been increasing in fidelity.
Sometimes I feel like there's a lot of charm and appeal to the early low fidelity sprites.
I love how the Gen 3 sprites work. Look, I think that the Gen 3 looks really unique and interesting. Its like color palette is very specific to it. Like, it's much more saturated in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I've done a bunch of spriting, so I know.
So I have a mid-podcast proposition.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are not going to make it through all 9 gens of grass starters today if we want to limit this to.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so why don't we make this a Gen 1 starter episode and do 1, 2, 3, etc.
Sure. Well then.
Possible. Yeah. I mean, that's gonna take longer. But I mean, I
longer
guess,
than it would have taken to get through every grass type. Oh, you meant more episodes.
Yeah.
yeah. I can see that working. I was actually just about to suggest we move on to the next one.
Sure. So
But
is the next one Chikorita or is the next one Squirtle?
Charmander. It would be Charmander.
Yeah, let's go with Charmander.
All
Yeah,
right,
Charmander.
sure. Let's do this. All right. Hello, little lizard man.
Yes.
Sorry for the mid-podcast change, everybody. This early installment weirdness. Don't worry about it. I'll edit some stuff around, and it'll be fine.
Charmander
okay.
is my boy.
Everybody loves Charmander. Everybody loves Charmander. Game Freak loves Charmander.
Japan loves Charmander.
I used to not like Charmander.
Oh,
That's
you
fine.
heathen!
I mean, to be clear. Go ahead.
I used to be super contrary when everybody talked about how Charizard was so cool. I was like, noted.
Sure, like, I get it. Like, I totally understand the pushback. I'm one of those people who sees pushback and does pushback to the pushback.
Yeah,
so I like Charmander and Charizard in opposition to people who did not like it because they were in opposition to people who liked it. I think that Charmander, though, like, as a design, like, if you look at this basic, like, official image, his little face is so cute. And
he's just
so
a little
shaped.
guy.
He is so shaped. He is so good. That's a friend right there.
I had no idea what Charmander was going to evolve into when I first got one, because I went into yellow completely blind.
I mean, you were 6 or something, right?
I was 10.
Oh, the correct age!
I was the correct age when I started my Pokemon journey.
That's wild.
I had no idea what Charmander was going to evolve into. I just thought he was cute, and I had to have him on my team. So I went through yellow. I forget what my yellow team was. I'd have to look through the Gen 1 Pokedex and try to dredge up my memories. But I know Charizard was on it because I have a vivid memory of Charizard using Rage and missing constantly against a minimized execute that was doing 1 damage per seed bomb for 100 turns.
Jeez
because
Louise.
enemy Pokemon don't have PP.
In Gen 1, that's right, they don't. They also, gym leaders have, like, unlimited full heals, or, like, a fair amount of full heals. Like, when I was playing through Gen 1, I played through Yellow, for the first, I finished it for the first time, as part of, like, this Let's Play that I was doing years and years ago at this point. And anytime I would try to put somebody to sleep or paralyze them, if it was a boss, they would just be like, full heal, and I'll be like, what? And then I would do it again, and they were like, full heal, and I'd be like, what? How many of these do you have?
Too many.
Way too many.
So, for the longest time, yeah, I didn't like Charizard. I thought it was overhyped. I had a natural pushback as a child to anything that, like, a lot of people said was cool and badass, if I didn't think that it was cool already. The thing that made me like Charizard and see, like, the appeal is that it's cute. It's a cute fat dragon.
Yeah.
It is. It's not that big even. It's like
Yeah.
barely taller than I am.
It's just
Let's
a cute
see.
fat
Charizard
dragon.
is 5'7".
So yes, it's like a half-inch taller than I am.
It's 2 inches shorter than me.
I've
It's
got
just-
5 inches on the thing, so. Huh.
Is
Get it.
just a guy. He's just a guy. I will say that I always did prefer Mega Charizard Y to Mega Charizard X. You know, let's make the cool black dragon, you know, an actual dragon. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. But I always thought that Mega Charizard Y looked really cool. I thought that it looked just as much like a cool dragon. And the bigger proportions on the wings and everything made it look really interesting.
Was X the
I
black one
like-
and Y the orange one, or the other way around?
Yeah, X is the black one.
Okay.
I like Dynamax Charizard.
I think it is
Gigantamax
very
Charizard or
cool.
whatever.
I like
think...
the...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think Gigantamax Charizard is intentionally evoking the early visual illustrations of like sprites and illustrations of Charizard.
That would make sense. Yeah, I don't know where its wings went. I don't know how they turned into fire, but I guess they did.
I also like its mane. I think that's really fun and adds an interesting accent to the creature.
Yeah, I think it's very cool.
The Gigantamaxes aren't as flexible a design choice as the Megas, but I think when they went in on Gigantamax designs, they really knocked it out of the park.
I do like a lot of the Gigantamax designs. So Charmander for me has like kind of a special place in my heart because of something very weird. When I was younger, we had it was like either a guide or like the manual to Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time, and it had all of the starter choices in it, and I was in middle school, early high school, trying to draw, and so I would just freehand copy all of these Pokemon designs. And I distinctly remember this specific image of Charmander because I just loved how it was shaped, and I loved drawing it. And it's you can very clearly tell like what solid shapes it's made out of. And I have a lot of memories of specifically that. It's like a sense memory for me. I don't know how often
one
I
of the
actually
things Gen 1 does really well design-wise is that everything is so simple. It's simple, it's straightforward, and therefore it's very easily iconic. Obviously not all the Gen 1 Pokemon are iconic. There's a lot of relatively weak designs. There's a lot of stuff that's just kind of a Pokeball, for example. But
I mean, I personally think that is iconic, like in that it is literally an icon. Like to be fair, again, I do know every single Pokemon, and if you put any single Pokemon in front of me, I would say, oh yeah, that's that. And I find it extremely difficult to dislike any Pokemon design, even the ones that a lot of people don't like. Like, people don't like Grumpig because they think it looks boring or whatever. And I'm just like, no, Grumpig is like cool. People don't like Bruxish because it's like supposedly very ugly. And I'm like, that's what triggerfish look like.
Yeah.
That's what triggerfish actually look like. And there's other ones too, like
you guys both know the one Pokemon design that makes me kind of go,
Which one?
Lucario.
Oh yeah. Well, we don't got to talk about the mouth situation. We'll save that for the. We'll save that for the actual Lucario episode.
Save that for 2,000 episodes from now.
I mean, we don't know. We might randomize this. Who knows?
Fair enough.
I wish that I had more interesting Pokemon books or whatever growing up, because I always played Pokemon. Like, I played Yellow, I played Silver, I played Ruby. By the time it got to Gen 4, I was buying my own Pokemon games. The only gen I sort of skipped was 7. And even then, I had a decent time with what I played of it. But I had the Pokedex. The Pokedex book. The one where Professor Oak tells you to use a Master Ball and a Fearow. It's...
Hell yes.
It was so cool to have. And all the illustrations were great.
Yes.
I had two of them. I had one for Sinnoh, and one that was supposedly the ultimate Pokemon handbook. Actually, I think they were my younger brother's more than they were mine. But I also did learn how to draw from freehand copying stuff in those as well.
That is very on brand for you.
We had the Ruby and Sapphire strategy guide. I love strategy guides. I've always loved strategy guides. When the past couple of generations of Pokemon came out, I always made a point to like try and get the strategy guides whenever I could, even though in Gen 7, the strategy guides came out like 2 weeks later and I had already beaten the game. I was like, but I still got them because I love the feeling of strategy guides and like the I've always loved them. I I would read over them, not playing the game, even when I was like 8 years old and I couldn't get further than like 5 hours into any video game I ever put my hands on. I would just read through the Final Fantasy X strategy guide, the Final Fantasy X-2 strategy guide, and see all the story stuff that I wasn't supposed to know, which is probably part of why I don't care about spoilers. Just like, oh, now I know what's coming up, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like thinking about that kind of thing.
The old 2000s JRPG strategy guides were prime material. They were so cool.
They were so good. They had the giant illustrations of the character. Like the FFX one and the FFX2 ones are the ones that I remember the most. Just because like they had the big thing of everybody's sphere grid. They had like everybody's sphere grid had big full spreads. And they had next to like the official Tetsuya Nomura art, and it was like, oh, this is so cool. Anyway, back on topic.
This is Tangents the podcast. If you're listening, that's what you signed up for, and you
I know that
better
there's
love
already
it.
a podcast called Tangents that is affiliated with SciShow. We're sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry. Anyway,
if it makes you guys feel any better, I'm friends with a bunch of podcasters, and they love nothing more than tangents and podcasts.
I think it's the appeal of a lot of podcasts.
This is the reason we called it Own Tempo Podcast. We are going at our own tempo. It's also a Pokemon reference, so we got like the layers. Alright, so we cannot move on to Squirtle without talking about the Charmander, Ash's Charmander.
Before we talk about Ash's Charmander, we gotta talk about how sick Charizard Shiny is.
It's pretty cool.
It's a huge departure from Charmander and Charmeleons. I don't know why they did it, but...
They just did it because Charizard has always been popular, and they were like, what's the coolest thing we can do?
Purple Dragon!
Purple Dragon into Black Dragon. Because now it's just black, and they were like...
nowadays it's just black. Do you prefer purple or black?
I think the shade of purple they used would look really sick, but it's hard to beat the black Charizard.
It is very difficult. Like, I think it was probably supposed to be black, but the Game Boy Color could only handle so many colors.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't go super black. But I don't really know for sure, because, like, they did have some black. There was, like, Sneasel and stuff, so they could have done...
In Pokemon Gold and Crystal... almost every single shiny, according to the developers, was just them shifting the palette cycle forward until it reached one that looked okay.
Oh, so like it wasn't like random, but it was like based on like just shifting the palette via.
Yeah, there are no custom palettes for shiny Pokemon. It's just okay, which palette set doesn't look horrible? There we go.
Okay, so because like I have heard both versions that there was like some kind of algorithm that they used and like all Pokemon are shifted the same amount, which I know isn't true because but does seem true because a lot of pink Pokemon like Mew and Ditto and stuff like that wind up blue.
I think that's just because those already used the same palette, so of course the same nearby palette also works for them.
Also, it's easier to code if you're just doing color replacement.
Yeah, that does make the most sense.
Yep.
Your Typhlosion is in your face. It's very funny.
Oh yeah, intersecting with my body. Oh, there it goes.
I think it's interesting that when it comes to shinies, Charizard Y is kind of a purplish shiny.
Oh, it is, isn't it? I actually have to check. I'm on the. It is closer to that vibe. It is a little bit lighter, a little bit more towards the purple.
Yeah. And then Charizard X is like a greenish color, which is neat. That's
another green shiny.
I had forgotten that they went with
bright green. Don't worry.
I thought that they had just changed it so that for some reason I had thought this entire time that they just kept it black and changed the flames to be red. I must be thinking of something else. I like that because that's how Umbreon's shiny basically works.
Yeah, I always found Ash's, Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. I thought it was a fun little story arc. Like when I was little, I thought it was. I even was charmed by it. I'm like, "Aw."
It is iconic. It is the iconic Pokemon arc. Like
In the
it is
fucking Unknown movie when
when he
Charizard
comes out
shows
of
up to
nowhere and
help
it's like
Ash, yeah.
yeah, that's the coolest thing. I mean,
Like
the
I could
Unknown movie.
it could sense that he was in danger and it came to help because it cares about him. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
and I mean,
okay,
like, to be clear, the
got
Unknown
me.
movie is my favorite Pokemon
It's a
movie
good
and one of my
movie.
favorite movies of all time. It's a
Mhm.
great movie. Anyone who is listening to this and who has not watched the Unknown movie, watch it. You will not regret it. I promise
It's
you.
fun.
I
But yeah,
liked it. I thought there were some issues with its pacing and presentation and the things that it could or could not have done. But I'm also a big stan for Pokemon the first movie, so I've got no leg to stand on there.
I mean, Pokemon the first movie is a good spectacle film. Like, I feel like it does what it is trying to do very well. I feel like the things that, like, it wants to get across some themes and some very specific vibes, and I feel like it does do what it is trying to do very well. And obviously, it looks really good, and
And
I
also
think
the
that
absolute audacity of naming your movie the first movie.
did they do that? I guess they did do that, didn't they?
Pokemon, the first movie. I'm sure the second movie was already in production by the time it
Yes,
aired,
but
um,
I don't think that it was called the first movie in
Japan.
Japan because I
Yeah.
don't think that they number them in Japan. I think they just go Pokemon the movie.
it was like Mewtwo Strikes Back or something, right? And
Pocket
then-
Yeah.
Monsters the movie, Mewtwo's counterattack.
Ugh.
Yes. So the third movie is called Master of the Unknown Tower or something. I don't remember if Entei is in the title in Japanese.
Emperor of the Crystal Tower, Entei.
Oh, wow, damn. So Ash's Charizard, it's hard for me to find things to say about Ash's Charizard
It's
because
just fun.
everything
It's
has been said. It's
Ash's
like,
Charizard is an interesting exploration of the character that they give the Charmander, which clearly has trust and abandonment issues after having been abandoned by its original trainer. When Ash pushes it hard to become strong, it does, but since it has a distorted sense of, trust and strength, it doesn't have respect for Ash, who clearly
also,
struggles to demonstrate strength to that
notably,
Charmander.
it is a manifestation of another game mechanic. He got it from
Over-leveled
somebody else.
Charizard.
Yeah.
He and it gained his. He had to prove himself to it. With his
The friendship mechanic.
yeah, which I find is very interesting. They decided to go with that because, again, it's just so interesting that people say that the original anime doesn't follow the rules, and they cite like two things over and over again, when there are so many instances of game mechanics actually being observed and being showcased in a lot of really interesting ways. I highly recommend Suede's Pokemon Journey, by the way. You have to find it via some weird places because it got copyright struck into oblivion, and so you have to like download it off of Google Docs via his Patreon now. But he's re-uploading them onto his Patreon gradually because it's a really good series, and he just goes through every single episode of the anime, and he got.
Oh, that's why it got copyright struck. Okay, footage.
Yeah, and he reviews it, and he gives trivia and thoughts and stuff on it, and through that I came to realize how much like real genuine craft is put into those early episodes, because for a while I dismissed the early Pokemon series because I didn't really like. I watched plenty of it when I was a kid, but I never really was like, oh, it's not really something that I need to watch really when I know that I like, say, the Gen 4 anime so much better. But there really was a lot of thought put into it. The fact that Ash is in some ways very different from the average 90s anime protagonist, but in some ways very similar at the same time. He's like sort of a different take on the idea because he's just sort of a regular kid. He's not like super talented from the start. He kind of sucks at it. And that's fine. That's like he learns and he is able to be a very good in for the beginning player. And I feel like the original show is actually very respectable and deserves a lot of credit that I did not give it for a significant portion of my life.
Hell yeah. Okay, are we ready to talk about Squirtle and Co?
It is time for the boy, the guy with the common glasses who wore them first, and in my opinion, better.
Oh yeah, we can
It is.
segue
It
using the
is.
anime.
I just want to chime in real quick and say that my strongest Squirtle association is new Pokemon Snap because my mom likes taking photos. She's an amateur photographer, and I thought, oh, it's the photography Pokemon game. Maybe I can bond with my mom over this. And so I recorded video of a few of the levels, and I showed them to her, and she loved it. And she specifically requested that if I could find a Squirtle toy that shot bubbles, that she would love to have one. Except she called it Spurtle because she's 54. And
because it spurts water.
Yeah.
That's so cute. That's so cute. That's
Yeah.
so cool. I love Squirtle. It is such a little guy. It is like again, I'm biased. It was my first ever Pokemon when I played Blue for the first time. It is just such a little guy turbo.
The best starters are just a little guy.
Yeah, and it's so round, and and turtles are great in general, but like its entire line is so cool because it first gets like these frills and that don't go anywhere. Like I don't know why it gets these frills, but it makes War Turtle distinct enough that you don't like forget about it. It doesn't fall into that awkward middle evolution trap. And then Blastoise is literally just a tank that is also a turtle, and that is the coolest thing. It is such a weird idea to take like the idea of retracting into your shell and apply it to cannons.
Yeah.
But like, why not? Why not? That's so cool. Like, I don't know who came up with that, but it's awesome, and I love Gigantamax Blastoise so much. Gigantamax Blastoise is far better than Mega Blastoise, which I do like Mega Blastoise. Like the extra cannon and putting its two cannons on its arms is a very fun idea, but turning it into a giant actual fortress of cannons, mwah, chef's kiss, absolute perfection.
That is too many guns, and I love it.
I love that Gigantamax forms are basically, how can we make this Pokemon a kaiju?
It's great. It's phenomenal. And of course, Ash's Squirtle, with his glasses, the former gang leader turned firefighter, which is an actual thing that a lot of gang leaders did. It's like a real
Really?
applicable thing to Japanese society. Japanese firefighters are kind of like seen as these super cool badasses they put on like these performance shows of firefighting moves, and it's actually so cool. I've only seen some clips, but like the idea that firefighters are like these super cool tough guys in a very similar way to how like the Yakuza are kind of seen, but like as good guys. It's like, oh, that's so cool. And
I'm gonna
so
have to look up video of that because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and like the outfits that they wear in the episode where they turn into firefighters are accurate to like historical firefighting outfits. It's like, oh, this is the coolest thing. So I have always associated like most of my fondest memories of the old anime involve Squirtle. I had like a VHS of I think that episode and a couple ones right after. And then I also had an episode, a couple of episodes where Squirtle was fairly important, like the shipwreck episodes, where of course they had to use all of their water types.
The vivid memory just blasted into my brain when you said shipwreck episode.
That's the one where they're on the raft and Team Rocket kicks a Magikarp into the water and it turns into a Gyarados, right?
Yeah, that's the one after that. They had it was like a series of 3 episodes. They were only vaguely connected. There were much better multi-part sagas, but yeah, they go on to the ship and the ship sinks at the end of that episode. Like after they had like an episode on the ship, and then they have to deal with getting off the ship, and then they get washed away to the island of the giant Pokemon, which
I thought that's where that was leading. That's an episode I have vivid memories of.
Most people do, yeah. It's a very fun episode. I I honestly prefer the shipwreck episode just because I have always loved any episode where Team Rocket and the main cast work together. I've always been this way.
Team Rocket are ludicrously effective when they're trying to be heroes, and completely ineffective at any other time. They miss their calling.
Which is the whole point, which, like, I don't know if you guys have watched the Aim to be a Pokemon Master this miniseries that follows Ash after he becomes world champion, and shows,
no, I haven't. I haven't watched any of the anime past the start of Gen 4.
I highly recommend the Sun and Moon anime.
The Sun and Moon anime is great.
Really
the Sun and Moon anime is phenomenal. It deals with like it's got a lot of really good themes. Like it handles the stuff from the games very well. The family themes of that. My only complaint with it is that Guzma was not a bigger part. He kind of gets relegated to just a rival in the league, which is lame.
When you are in a Pokemon mood again and I have the time, we should definitely play through Gen 7.
I would love to do that. That sounds like a great idea. We could do it together. I played through Gen 6 with Beans for his first time playing through Gen 6, and it was so cool. I remembered all the reasons that I really did like those games when they first came out. Like they definitely have a lot of flaws, and they are like essentially glorified tech demos, but there's a lot of stuff to do in them, and there's a lot of really interesting things that you can explore and enjoy and stuff. And I really remembered that, so I would love to play through Sun and Moon with you. I do recommend playing both Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. They have different strengths and weaknesses. Even though most of them are the same, like mostly it's the same game, there is enough stuff that is different that I feel like both are extremely worthwhile experiences. But let's go back to Squirtle.
My main association of Squirtle is that it was my dad's favorite Pokemon.
Aw.
I don't know if it's because he had to pick a favorite because his child wouldn't shut the hell up about Pokemon, or because he thought it was a genuinely cool little guy. But
he is such a good little guy. Like, I love I don't really care for Charmeleon that much, and Ivysaur is just kind of fine, but I love Wartortle. Wartortle is such a good design.
I agree.
He's so cool.
I would love to see a regional variant of Blastoise that is based off of Wartortle's design element.
There is if you play there's a fan game called Pokemon Infinity that has regional forms of the Kanto starters that are different types, and the Squirtle line is their tails are clouds, big puffy clouds, and they're water flying types.
Ooh, cool.
And it's very cool. The Bulbasaur line is cactuses, and they're grass ground type, I'm pretty sure. And I don't remember exactly what Charmeleon is. I don't think they made them Fire Dragon. I think it was something else. But it was very cool.
The Legends Arceus has shown that they're willing to do regional starters, but I don't know if they'll regard Gen 1 as too sacrosanct to mess with.
I mean, they've given them other forms before. It would not be the weirdest thing.
I'd love for regional starters.
Giving Pokemon extra forms is a showcase of affection and being important. So I think that it's definitely possible. I feel like the Hisuian starters went over well enough that it could definitely happen.
I'm looking at Pokedex entries, and it's really interesting. A lot of the entries describe Wartortle as being furry.
It does look like furry tail.
As having a furry tail and furry ears. Yeah, that's true.
It's interesting because, they're reptiles, so I don't know why, but, then again, think about, the winged turtle shells in Mario. Like, is it a reference? Could it be because of that? I don't know.
It's interesting though that they just toss that out for Blastoise. They're like, never mind.
I mean,
I like Blastoise as a final form more than I would like a Wartortle final form, but it is a very weird change.
But I think it works, you know? It makes it so that you remember Wartortle, even if it's like, why is it different now?
Also, a lot of Wartortle's Pokedex entries talk about it getting old, and you know, its furry tail is a symbol of is a symbol of longevity.
It is
the implication that like only like very few Wartortle actually evolve into Blastoise?
I think it's kind of an implicit implication for a lot of Pokemon that evolution is relatively rare.
Huh. At least in the wild.
Yeah. It kind of would make sense. There's a lot of different takes on that, and of course, Pokedex entries in general are sometimes
very
extremely weird.
God, Gen 9 is full of entries about what Pokemon like eating each other and how they taste.
I know, it's like,
so weird.
They avoided that for so long, and then Gen 7 happened, and they were like,
oh yeah, people just fucking eat these things.
No, like, Gen 7 had a lot of predatory relationships, specifically Marini. Marini's entire deal is just like, we gotta... I think it's because, like, they decided to lean into, like, conservatism a little bit, and so they wanted to, like, establish...
Conservationism, you mean?
Yeah, conservationism. That's right. Conservatism is something else. Not
the subject of this podcast.
Don't worry about it.
Has not leaned into it, which is nice.
Yes, so it leaned more into conservation. And I feel like it wanted to, like, sort of make more clear the relationships that real animals would have with each other. And, like, because they always kind of have to toe that line of, are Pokemon animals or are they yokai that are kind of, like, separate from animals and are kind of special in their own way? I've always thought of them very much as, like, special creatures, and real animals also exist. I don't have a lot of, like, evidence for that, but I feel like it makes the most sense for them to be spirits, because that's just kind of... Because that's just kind of a thing that already happens in Japan. Like, spirits, from what I understand, of course, I'm not an expert. I don't want to tread on any toes here, obviously, but I am a big old nerd, and I do know enough about stuff that, like, the idea of objects having spirits, and, like, the idea of animals becoming magical after certain amounts of time, and all of these different things that, like, exist in our world, just sort of, like, off hidden to the side, is very much a thing that I feel like would play into it. But they kind of have to play into a bunch of different things because of how popular Pokemon is. They can't lean too far in one direction or another, because there are things that are going to happen because groups are going to get mad at them, which is one of the downsides of being famous and being well known. You have to be a lot more careful. But in some ways, that accountability is good. You know, I wouldn't want to play a game where Jinx stayed the way that it was forever.
Yeah,
you know?
That was unfortunate.
I like that they leaned into giving it a slug body later on.
It is kind of that's right. I think it does kind of it doesn't have feet.
The way it moves is like a slug. It's really interesting.
I think it does have feet. You see its feet in a couple of episodes of the show. But I don't know if it matters that much.
I don't think I've ever seen a Jinx move.
It sways back and forth, you know?
And its, like, lower body kind of wiggles in a slug-esque manner.
Huh.
Yeah, it's...
I've seen Jinx in motion, like in New Pokemon Snap, but I've never seen one walking around, I don't think.
You can only get it in Gen 1 via, like, trade... So I don't remember how you get it in Let's Go. Actually, I think you can just find it in the Seafoam Islands, but I don't remember. My memory is very good about some things, but very bad about other things.
Seafoam Islands. But yeah, we talked about all the Gen 1 starters. So hey.
Yes, we did do that, and it has been about an hour.
We can spend 2 seconds talking about Pikachu. It's
yeah,
good.
that's
I
right.
like it.
Pikachu,
wait,
the
no.
single most iconic Pokemon in the world, the helm of the franchise.
If this is a Kanto starter episode, you're right. We need to talk about Pikachu, and we need to talk about Eevee, because
Oh
those
no,
two...
I don't have the time. I don't have the time.
We should save Eevee for an Eeveelutions episode. Maybe we
Yeah,
save
that's-
Pikachu for...
We could probably have a whole episode where we talk about Pikachu and Eevee. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
Pikachu probably deserves its own episode because of all the other Pikachus in the world, which I love basically all of. So yeah, all right, fine. But I will go
we
ahead
can
and
talk
say
about
that
the tragedy of us not getting Gorochu.
Gorochu is great, but I mean, like, I love Pikachu so goddamn much. I
Okay,
am
yeah,
not.
we should definitely have a Pikachu episode.
Yeah, good. But I have never been too cool for Pikachu. I've always loved Pikachu. I want Pikachu as my partner in any Pokemon story that I make because I love Pikachu. And like Blue was my first game, but Yellow I played more of, and I watched the anime, and everybody wanted a Pikachu. And if you said you didn't want a Pikachu, you're a liar or a contrarian. And I don't want to be associated with those people. Anyway, okay. So I don't think we really did I did recommend a number of things. We were considering a segment called Love Recommends, and I did recommend like at least 3 different things. I said to watch the 3rd movie, and I said I think I said some stuff about the 4th season of the anime, Diamond and Pearl. It's great. It's actually one of the reasons why I find it hard to talk about Charizard, because Chimchar in Sinnoh does a very similar arc. So we'll be able to get into that when we get into the Gen 4 starter episodes.
All right. Well, it seems like we've done everything we set out to do then.
Awesome.
All right, yeah.
Happy first episode, everybody.
Yeah, all right.
I think for a sign-off, we should each make up a fake fact about Pokemon and just say it like it's true.
No, I don't
you're
believe
putting
in
me
fake
on the
fic. I don't
spot.
believe in... I have too much real information about Pokemon to do that. Let's do something more creative and more interesting than that.
Damn.
So-
Okay.
Wow.
I think my Mew got returned to her Pokeball, so let me send it back out.
Good.
Come here, baby. Come here, baby child. So let's go with something like character driven. I am obsessive reader love. My favorite Pokemon is Mew because I love that it can do anything, and so can you. No, that's dumb. That's terrible. I hate
Right.
that.
No.
You are leaving that in the episode. There is
You're right.
no question about it.
I did rhyme on purpose, but it was a little bit silly.
It's Goofy.
Okay.
That's you.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that I'm goofy in a positive way. But yeah, so anyone who is watching the YouTube video, we are currently surrounded by our favorite Pokemon. Mine is Mew.
Mine is Typhlosion.
Mine's Jumpluff. Well, it's Hoppip, but I had a Jumpluff on hand. So.
And it kind of represents... I feel like your favorite Pokemon says a lot about you. So you can take from that what you will. This has been the Own Tempo podcast. I have been Obsessive Reader Love. You can find me on Tumblr under Love Blogging and Reblogging at .tumblr.com. I have a Twitter, but I don't use it. And I'm on Discord, but like I don't know if I would add random listeners to the podcast on Discord. So yeah.
I'm Loreweaver. You can find me on Tumblr at Loreweaver Universe, loreweaver-universe.tumblr.com, on Twitch at twitch.tv/Loreweaver15, and on YouTube, where I upload my streams and this video that you're watching right now, if you're not listening to it on a podcast site, at youtube.com/@lore_weaver, I believe is what I secured. I got something Loreweaver related. I don't think I got actual at Loreweaver, but
Weaver into the search bar and you will probably find him.
yeah. I watch cartoons on my blog, and I play video games on Twitch and YouTube.
I'm Teddy. You can find me a couple places on the internet, but honestly, I feel like the centralized internet is slowly falling apart, so what's the point, really? If you bump into me, you'll bump into me.
That's an energy. So
Have fun, stay safe, be brave enough to be kind, and get Pokemon.
Pokemon
Absolutely.
good. Play
Pokemon good.
Watch Pokemon. Enjoy Pokemon. Pokemon is for everybody. Anybody who tells you you're too old to play Pokemon or that it's for babies, they're wrong and lame and bad and dumb. Play Pokemon. It's good for the soul.
That sounded a little bit cultish.
All
I'm
right.
just gonna stick with get Pokemon. I love that. I love that. That's the tagline for Pokemon in Japan. Just get Pokemon.
Oh, is
yeah.
it?
Get them.
Gotta catch them
Catching
all.
is called getting in Japanese. Okay, I feel like my cultish energy was the right way to end the podcast. I think we're fine.
Bye,
That's
everybody.
true.
See you later.
Remember, dedicate an entire section of your brain to Pokemon. Develop a religious brain response to Pokemon.
I literally
Memorize
probably have.
every Pokemon in the
Literally
Pokédex.
probably have. That's
Yeah.
the worst thing.
A
It's
not
definitely-
insubstantial portion of my brain is Pokemon themed.
To be fair,
is it
it's-
actually a portion of my brain? I gotta wonder about that.
To be fair, it's just kind of the way the human brain works. If we're given a large quantity of things to index and organize, our brain is like, ooh, okay.
We like patterns. I fucking
Yeah.
love patterns.
Pokemon is basically just Patterns, the media franchise. So
It's true. We'll figure out a way to end a place to cut that off somewhere. Don't worry
all
about
good.
it.
No, leave it in.
the whole thing.
This is Tangents the podcast. Leave
There's
it in.
already a podcast called Tangents. We can't call it that.
All right,
do
that
anything
is
you
where
want
we should
forever.
leave off, though. So
I'll
this
edit
is
some stuff around that.
this has been Own Tempo. Thank you
And
guys for
we-
tuning in.
And we will catch you on the flip side. See you later.
Adios.
Get Pokemon.